The snow had swallowed the city. New York looked like it had been erased under a thick white silence. No buses, no footsteps, no sirens, just cold. Amara sat alone on the metal bench, her hospital scrubs soaked through, a thin hoodie doing nothing against the wind that stabbed her bones. Her fingers trembled inside cheap gloves. Her phone? Dead 2 hours ago. Her last meal? Coffee from a vending machine and a granola bar someone dropped and didn't want. 14 hours. That's how long she'd been on her feet, helping patients, covering for nurses who didn't show, and dodging the sideways looks that always came when someone like her spoke up. Cars passed. No one stopped. Some slowed, stared, and kept going. A black woman sitting in the cold didn't look urgent to them. She was used to that, being seen and unseen at the same time. Then headlights flashed through the haze. A sleek black Bentley rolled up slow, tires crunching the snow like glass. The windows were tinted, the kind of dark you don't question. Amara straightened up, unsure whether to feel hopeful or afraid. The car stopped. A man stepped out, tall, sharp black coat, salt and pepper hair, white, rich. Everything about him screamed control. He didn't rush. He didn't hesitate. He walked straight toward her like he already knew who she was. She stood up quickly, her voice cracked before her words did. "I'm fine. I'm waiting for the next bus." "There is no next bus." His voice was low, clear, unshaken. "City shut down the routes an hour ago." "I'll manage." He didn't move any closer, just pulled off his coat in one fluid motion and extended it toward her. "Put this on." She didn't take it. "I don't know you." "I'm not leaving you out here to freeze." "I didn't ask you to." "You're coming with me." The words landed like a command but not a threat. Still, Amara stepped back, heart pounding. "Look, I don't need saving." He nodded once. "Good, because I don't save people. I just don't walk past them like they're nothing." That part hit deeper than it should have. She stared at him, breath fogging in front of her lips. Then slowly, like her body gave in before her pride did, she reached for the coat. It was heavy, warm. It smelled like leather, cedar, and something expensive. He walked back to the car without another word, and for some reason, she followed. Inside the Bentley, silence wrapped around Amara like a second coat. The warmth hit first. Seat heaters, soft leather, faint scent of cedar still clinging to the collar he'd handed her. Her frozen limbs didn't know what to do with comfort that sudden. She sat stiffly, clutching the coat around her body like armor, eyes darting between the man behind the wheel and the window fogging up with her breath. He didn't look at her, just adjusted the temperature controls and pulled the car smoothly onto the snow-dusted road. The streetlights outside passed like ghosts. Amara finally spoke, voice quiet but guarded. "You always pick up strangers off benches?" "No," he said, still not looking her way. "You're the first." "That's supposed to make me feel better?" "It's supposed to make you understand I don't do this often." "Then why now?" Her voice sharpened. "You looked like my mother," he said. "The night she died, she was wearing scrubs. No one stopped for her either." That shut her up, not because it was moving, because it was specific. It was too real to be a line. She stared at him. His profile was sharp, jaw clenched, eyes locked on the road like breaking eye contact might unravel something inside him. Not pity, not attraction, just stillness. "What's your name?" she asked finally. "Nathaniel," She hesitated. Amara. Neither said another word for a while. Outside, the city was sleeping, but inside the car, every second felt like a test. Amara's phone, useless in her pocket, reminded her she had no backup. No one to call. No one who'd notice she didn't make it home. "Where do you live?" he asked. "Harlem." He sighed. "You know there's no way a cab's getting through this, right?" "I've walked in worse." "Not tonight." "You haven't." Amara tightened her arms across her chest. "You always this bossy?" "I'm not asking you to trust me," he said flatly. "I'm telling you I have a heated apartment 3 blocks from here, and I'm offering you a safe place to sleep. Lock the door. Take the guest room. Leave in the morning. Or walk into a blizzard and pretend pride keeps you warm." She turned to him slowly. "You don't even know me." He glanced at her for the first time. "Maybe not. But I know what it looks like when someone's out of options." That hurt more than it should have. She looked down at her lap, coat draped like a shield. Her fingers stopped shaking. Her mind didn't. When he pulled into an underground garage and the gates opened like something out of a movie, Amara realized she wasn't scared. She was tired. Tired of always being alone. Tired of freezing while everyone else passed her by. So when he parked and said, "Come on," she didn't fight. She followed him into warmth. The apartment felt like another world. Warmth, soft lighting, polished wood floors. No grand chandeliers, no gold-trimmed furniture. Just elegance, wrapped in silence. The fireplace crackled low in the corner. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked a snow-covered skyline. Amara paused just inside the door, soaking in the quiet, alert for anything that felt off. "Guest rooms down the hall," Nathaniel said, already shrugging off his coat and tossing it neatly over a chair. "Left side, there's clean clothes in the dresser. Big on you, but warm." "You got guest clothes for strangers often?" she asked. He didn't even smirk. "I don't have guests, just had a mother who always kept extras for those who needed them." She didn't know what to say to that. So she said nothing. She moved slowly, taking it all in. The kind of apartment that didn't scream money, but whispered power. Minimal. Masculine. Lived in. It didn't smell like cologne or cigars. It smelled like someone who didn't try to impress, because he didn't have to. She hesitated near the hallway. "Why are you doing this?" Nathaniel turned toward the kitchen. "Because I can. And because you shouldn't be out there." That answer didn't explain much, but somehow it explained everything. 15 minutes later, she emerged from the guest room wrapped in an oversized sweater and sweatpants that nearly swallowed her. Her hair was loose. Her skin was finally regaining some color. She meant to just ask for water, but froze at the doorway. He was in the kitchen, alone. No private chef. No takeout containers. Just him, standing over the stove in a fitted t-shirt and dark pants, stirring something in a small pot like it was routine. She blinked. "You cook?" He glanced over, didn't stop stirring. "Sometimes. I figured you hadn't eaten." "I'm fine." "You're starving," he corrected, nodding toward the bar stool. "Sit." Against her better judgment, she obeyed. The smell hit her first. Salty, warm, familiar. "Ramen?" she asked, surprised. "It's not fancy," he said, plating it in 2 bowls. "But it's hot." She stared at him. This didn't make sense. Billionaires didn't make instant noodles for people they met an hour ago. They didn't hand over coats and keep their distance and offer guest rooms without expectations. He slid the bowl in front of her and handed her a spoon. "Eat." She picked it up, still watching him like he might disappear. "You keep surprising me," she murmured. He looked at her then, not with charm or flirtation, but something quiet, something human. "So do you," he said. And for the first time in months, Amara felt full, not just from the food, from something she couldn't name. 3 days passed. Amara hadn't planned on seeing him again. After that one night, the ramen, the quiet, the warmth, she left in the morning with a polite thank you and a lie about calling if she needed anything. She didn't. She never did. But then came the community health fair, an event her hospital helped organize every winter for people who couldn't afford basic care. It was held in an old gymnasium downtown, the walls lined with folding tables, volunteer nurses, and patients in worn coats with quiet eyes. No fanfare, no cameras, just service. Amara was kneeling beside an elderly black man with no ID and no insurance, wrapping his thin wrist with a blood pressure cuff. He smiled at her like she was the first kind face he'd seen in weeks. She smiled back. From across the crowded room, someone was watching. Nathaniel stood near the exit, hands in his coat pockets, eyes locked on her. No assistant, no clipboard, no introduction. Just presence, silent and still. Amara didn't see him at first, but when the crowd began to thin, she turned and froze. "You followed me?" she said, approaching slowly, part of her annoyed, the other part unsure. "No," he replied calmly. "I fund this program every year. I didn't know you'd be here." She folded her arms, squinting. "Right." He glanced around. "You volunteer after working double shifts?" She shrugged. "People need help. And I know what it's like not to have any." He was quiet a moment, eyes softer than she remembered. "My mother used to bring me to places like this. She was a nurse. I hated it then. Thought it was a waste of her time. And now? Now I get it." She studied him. There was something different in his voice this time. Less control, more memory, a quiet confession wrapped in guilt. "You never mentioned her." "There's a lot I don't mention," he said, almost smiling. They stood in silence, surrounded by coughs, clattering trays, and the low hum of human need. "You do this often?" she asked. "Show up? Watch from the sidelines?" "Only when I see someone worth watching." Amara didn't know what to say to that. Compliments usually came with motives. This one didn't. "You know," she said carefully, "you could have just sent a check, like every other donor." "I do that too," he replied. "But checks don't listen. They don't understand what people actually need." Amara tilted her head. "And you think you do?" He looked straight at her. "I'm trying." That landed heavier than expected. Because for once, it didn't feel like a man trying to impress her. It felt like a man trying to be human. The collapse didn't happen suddenly. It was quiet, like most of Amara's suffering. She'd been pushing through triple shifts, skipped meals, and brushed off the headaches and black spots in her vision. That day, somewhere between checking vitals and changing a patient's IV, her legs buckled. She hit the hallway floor without a sound. By the time another nurse found her, she was unconscious, pale, lips dry, pulse faint. No next of kin on file, no emergency contact. But someone still showed up. Nathaniel's black Bentley slid into the hospital parking lot less than 30 minutes after the call. No sirens, no panic, just that same quiet urgency he always carried. like he'd been ready for this moment long before it arrived. When he stepped into her room, the fluorescent lights made her look smaller. Her scrubs were wrinkled, her hair stuck to her forehead with sweat. The fourth line dripped steadily beside her bed, a faint beep marking each breath she struggled to take. Nathaniel didn't speak. He just walked in, pulled the chair closer, and sat down like he belonged there. Then he took her hand. It was cold. He wrapped both of his around it, holding on the way his mother used to when he had fevers as a boy. Like touch could force warmth back into skin. He didn't blink. He didn't breathe. 2 hours passed. When Amara stirred, her eyelids heavy, the first thing she saw was him. Tie loosened, sleeves rolled up, hair slightly undone like he'd run his hand through it too many times. "What are you doing here?" she whispered. "You passed out," he said, voice tight. "You're severely dehydrated, starving." She blinked slowly. "Oh, that all?" He exhaled sharply, standing. "You work 2 jobs. You don't sleep. You act like your body isn't falling apart." "I'm fine." "No," he snapped. "You're not, and I could have helped." She turned her face away. "I didn't ask for help." "That's the problem," he said, pacing now. "You never do." Her voice trembled. "Because no one stays. Because when I was 16 and everything fell apart, I learned not to ask. I learned to take care of myself. I didn't want to owe you. I didn't want to be a charity case." He stopped moving. The fire in his voice turned into something deeper. "You're not broken," he said. "You've been holding everything together with your bare hands. But you don't have to anymore." She looked up, raw and exposed. "Why do you care?" "Because someone should." And this time, when he took her hand again, she didn't let go. There was no announcement, no conversation, no, "Let's make this official." Amara didn't move in. She just stopped leaving. First it was a night here, then 3. Then a week passed, and her toothbrush lived beside his. Her favorite tea sat on the second shelf, tucked next to his whiskey. A fuzzy blanket she loved was always folded on the couch. She never asked him to make space. He just started doing it. But still, something remained missing. Nathaniel never said much, never touched her first, never reached for her hand in public or asked her to stay in his bed. He was generous, attentive, consistent, but distant. The silence that once felt safe began to feel like a wall. One night, she came home from another long shift. The fireplace was on. Her favorite book was resting exactly where she'd left it, but the air felt heavier. She found him standing in his home office, staring out the tall windows. A photo of his mother rested on the desk beside another frame, one with her in it. A candid shot he'd taken when she wasn't looking. She leaned on the doorframe, her voice low. "You always look at that photo when something's wrong." He didn't turn around. "It helps me remember." "Remember what?" He paused. "That people like her, and like you, still exist." She stepped in slowly. "Nathaniel, what are we doing?" He turned, confused. "What do you mean?" "This," she said, motioning between them. "We share space, food, silence. But you don't touch me. You don't say anything. I feel like a guest in your life, not a part of it." He looked away, jaw tight. "Why won't you let me in?" she whispered. "Because when I let people in," he said softly, "they leave." "I'm not people," she replied. "I'm me." He finally met her eyes. I know. That's what makes it harder. Her chest tightened. I love you, Nathaniel. I think I have for a while. Silence. He didn't move, didn't speak. His lips parted, but nothing came out. She nodded slowly. That's okay. You don't have to say it back. But I can't keep waiting for someone who doesn't know if he's allowed to feel. That night, she packed quietly. She didn't cry. She didn't slam the door. She just folded the sweater he'd given her, left it on the bed, and slipped out. He didn't stop her. He stood in the hallway, frozen, one hand on the frame, as the door clicked shut behind her. And just like that, the warmth left with her. The snow had returned to New York, soft and silent, covering the sidewalks in hush. A year had passed since Amara walked away, and Nathaniel hadn't tried to find her. Not because he didn't want to, because he didn't know how. He'd moved through his days like a shadow, meetings, numbers, dinners with people he couldn't hear anymore. Her blanket still lay folded on the couch. Her tea still sat on the shelf. Her photo remained on his desk, untouched. He told himself it was better this way. Until one morning, everything changed. Amara had returned to the city temporarily. Her aunt had suffered a mild stroke, and Amara moved into a small rental near the Upper East Side to care for her. She told herself it was just for a few weeks. That morning, walking through a neighborhood she used to know, she stepped into a small flower shop. Familiar scent, soft music, peaceful. Then she froze. Near the back of the shop stood a tall man with streaks of gray in his hair, holding a bunch of white tulips. He hadn't seen her yet. He was still turning them over, lost in thought. She whispered, "Nathaniel?" He looked up. Their eyes locked. Neither of them moved. He stepped forward, slow but certain, tulips forgotten. When he stood close enough to touch her, he didn't. He just looked at her like he hadn't exhaled in a year. "You're coming with me," he said softly. The same words, same voice. But now, they didn't sound like a command. They sounded like a vow. Tears filled her eyes. "If you still want to," he added. "I never stopped waiting." She couldn't speak. She just nodded. That night, he brought her not to the penthouse, but to a smaller apartment on the edge of Central Park. Warm, lived in, peaceful. Inside were the little things she never expected to see again. Her blanket, her photo, her tea already on the counter. "You kept everything," she whispered. He touched her cheek gently. "I kept you." 6 months later, they married in the garden of his restored family home. No press, no headlines, just close friends, former patients, and people who had seen both of them walk through fire. During the ceremony, the same elderly man Amara once helped at the health fair stood up, voice shaking. "She's always been an angel," he said, smiling through tears. "Now she's found her peace." Nathaniel spoke his vows without notes. "I didn't know how to love before you," he said, "but I promise, every day, I'll learn. With you." Amara leaned in, eyes bright. "We'll learn together." That night, long after the candles had burned down, they sat wrapped in a blanket, the sound of distant rain falling gently outside. She leaned into him. "I never thought a freezing bench would lead me here." He kissed her forehead and whispered, "That night, I didn't save you." He looked into her eyes. "You saved me." And this time, she believed it.